In one of the main squares in central Baghdad, police and protesters confront each other. It began in the early hours of Monday as protesters tried to block the road leading to the square. They want a change of government and accuse the current one of corruption. A call had gone out to protesters to block main roads in Baghdad and major highways in the south, cutting off access. Police used live ammunition and fired tear gas in an attempt to disperse the crowds in the capital, but a standoff ensued, lasting several hours. Angry Iraqis are determined to get their message across.
The idea isn't just blocking the roads. All the people here are frustrated, so we make noise here to make sure that we are heard.
For months, no one has listened to our demands. They're killing us. It's just bloodshed.
Throughout the day, tuk-tuk three-wheelers have been ferrying tear gas victims to makeshift hospitals like this one.
I went to Tehran Square in Baghdad. People wanted me to help them. I was also attacked by tear gas. I fell down. The security forces have been using tear gas and live ammunition.
Iraq's National Security Council has authorized the arrest of protesters, but so far that's had little impact on the movement. There wasn't the same level of violence elsewhere in the country as there was in Baghdad, and the roadblocks in the south the protesters considered a success.
The real question for the protest movement is, where do you go from here? Once you've started blocking off roads in the south of the country, effectively cutting off the south from the rest of the country, where do you escalate? Your demands aren't being listened to, and that's really angering the protest movement. Now, it really remains to be seen whether the blockade of the roads is going to work and whether the government will listen as a result of it. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, Baghdad.
All right, let's speak to another of our correspondents in Baghdad now, Osama bin Javaid. Osama, it's nighttime now. Just bring us up to speed with the latest first as far as casualties after today's demonstrations.
Well, Folly, until a few hours ago, we saw protesters defiant, completely undeterred with all of the violence. We saw those three-wheelers pulling bins towards the front lines, as they call them. They've set up barricades and they're telling everyone that they're not going to leave until their demands are met. This is the first night that we're seeing them coming out in force again after weeks of a lull in the protests, especially after the tensions flared up between the United States and Iran, and ahead of a planned rally by government-linked parties as well. Protesters have been facing tear gas, rubber-coated bullets, and some have been saying that live munitions have been used. Through the day, they've been sending us videos, graphic videos of their wounds, how people have been killed, how people have been wounded. At least 2 bodies we've seen. We saw one funeral happening in Tehran Square as we were there. And protesters are saying that the government is back to its tactics as it was using before, but it is not going to make them stop. One protester told us that he has been coming here since October the 1st, and he's going to continue to come there until the government either meets the protesters' demands, which are provide them jobs, better facilities, healthcare, make sure that the people who are ruling them have integrity and honesty, and nobody who will be nominated by the government should be part of the political elite, because they think everybody who is part of the Iraqi government and opposition parties is corrupt.
And the protesters, Osama, have been trying to block roads to the south. What impact is that having, and what's likely to happen next, given the government hasn't responded to the protesters' demands?
Well, at least 9 people have been arrested for doing just that in Baghdad. 14 policemen have been injured. So it has been a very tough day for all sides, because the protesters said that they are going to make sure that the government hears them. And it is evident that the people living in not just Baghdad, but across the country have felt the size and scale of these protests, especially in the south, where many areas there was a provincial day off. People could not go to work. Many people had been stranded for hours on these highways which were blocked. And that is what the protesters wanted to tell the government, that they want the government to take notice. They say the government has been procrastinating. They did manage to remove the government. Right now, Iraq is being ruled by an interim government, but they say that is not enough. It has been weeks since they've heard the government come up with names who they want, and they have been rejecting the names that the government has been putting forward. So it is going, by the looks of it, going to escalate. Protesters have been calling others to come and join them. telling people who were there that they will not be deterred by this. They're going to hold their positions to make sure that 480 odd people who've died and more than 25,000 people who've been wounded did not do all of that in vain.
Thank you for that update. Osama bin Javaid live for us in Baghdad.